okay, why me? This is some bull.
Right.
I'm not like anybody else. I'm kind, I'm considerate, I'm thoughtful. I came into this business to be an inspiration. You see the arrogance and the
Right.
pride in that, but this is me,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have known that was in me until he
Mm.
showed me.
What are you waiting for? Destiny is calling, won't you pick up? What are you waiting for? Opportunity is knocking, won't you answer? You've been holding back for long enough, and I'm just wondering, 'cause the world is waiting on you. Hello?
Welcome back, everyone. This is Vannesia Darby, and I am here with the lovely Endyia Kinney-Sterns. Hello, Endyia. How you doing?
I am good, my dear. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You can see my big face because I'm super excited.
Oh,
Super
thank
excited.
you.
So I'm smiling from ear to ear. And I mean, we read your receipts at the beginning, so everyone knows that she's coming with it. Okay, all the networks. I don't want y'all to think it was just one or two. No, she came with them all. So we're gonna dive right in because I got some questions from Instagram. We put some questions together, and then we talked a little bit before we started recording. So there's gonna be a lot packed into this episode. So disclaimer for everyone listening: make sure you grab your notes. Okay, get your note app open because she's gonna be dropping all the gems, and I don't want you to miss anything. I don't want you to miss anything. So let's first start right off. I actually want to back up a little bit because we know your bio, but how would you, especially as you talk about gifting and purpose, how would you introduce yourself and how would you describe your profession?
Well, right now I started off in front of the camera as a kid,
Mhm.
and then moved to behind the scenes because I realized that there weren't a lot of opportunities as I got older and I'm auditioning for projects. I'm like, man, it would be great to help other people create content that, inspires, encourages, but also gives more opportunities. And so I moved from behind in front of the camera to behind the camera. And by that meaning an executive. So I wanted to be the person to say yes. I wanted to be the person to, feel the content and create, develop, and get it on the air. And God just kept opening doors for that. And I would circle back to the why for why that happened. And I would have to say that when I was a little girl, my mom would always say, you know what? Your purpose in life is to use your gifts to glorify God and bless others. That's your purpose.
Mhm.
And so she was basically saying, no matter what it is, that whatever doors are open to me, I just identify my gifts and just go full throttle,
Mhm.
and always keeping in mind a space and place of service. It's not about me. It's not about money. The money will come, but it's more about what's the mission behind it. And so when I decided to step out behind the scenes, that's really what it was. It was, I want to be able to affect change. I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to serve people through content. And so that's what I do, or have done for the past 20 some odd years between producing and being a television network executive. So, people pitch ideas. It's my job to make sure whatever network I'm at, that their needs are being met, that the
Mhm.
content makes sense, that it's of
Mhm.
excellence, and that the messaging and the intention is there. And I'm just so grateful that I've had a really good career at it.
So we're recording this on a Saturday, everyone, but she's taking us to church. So clearly it's Sunday. We haven't even started. No, I love that. And, how beneficial was it for your mom to really instill that? Because sometimes people get caught up in their profession, right? Or especially when you are creative and you want to make it in Hollywood, you get tied up to, oh, I'm only a dancer, right? And so you never think about being a choreographer. You never think about, moving on to the production side. So how important was it for you to hear that from your mother growing up, that this is your purpose, and whatever profession you fall into, that's fine, but this is your purpose?
I'm telling you, it was invaluable. It
Mm.
was the one thing, it was my North Star to keep me focused. And such a great question, because I have to be honest, as I started out, that was what was, again, like I said, my North Star. I was engaged in it. I was excited about it, no matter what came my way, whatever ups and downs, because I had a mission that
Mm.
was beyond myself, that it wasn't connected to validation of other people. It was really to help people.
Yeah.
I was fearless.
Mm.
I was fearless. I was excited because I'm like, no, I got to do this. And this is gonna help this person. This is gonna help this person. Ooh, and like it was exciting. But then,
Right.
girl, the more money I made
Yeah.
and the more accolades I got, and the awards and the validation from other
Mm.
people, then all of a sudden my why changed.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it,
Mm.
right? Because I was still sort of lying to myself saying, oh no, this is for other people.
Right.
But really, no, it was, how do I keep this up? Like, oh
Mhm.
my God, I'm trying to get this, I'm trying to get that. Like people
Right.
have this expectation of me. I got to get on my grind. I got
Mm.
to be a boss.
Right.
How all of those
Yeah.
cliches that we put out there. And
Right.
so that's what was driving me.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that I was sacrificing, because no matter what you do, um, it's going to require a sacrifice.
Right.
Uh, and you've got to count that cost of everything. And so when my shift changed, when my why changed,
Mhm.
I ended up sacrificing time with my kids,
Mm.
sacrificing time with my husband,
Mhm.
um, sacrificing a lot of things that I didn't even see, because I was amassing all of the external stuff that I felt I needed to continue the validation.
Mm.
And what's so detrimental is that that is not something you can keep up.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And
Right.
when the stock market crashed in 2008 and it hit the entertainment industry in
Mhm.
2010, and
Mhm.
I'm sitting there making a lot of money and my husband's doing well, and then everything just shut down and
Mhm.
I found myself laid off
Mm.
and money is dwindling, I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And everything that I had built, everything that I had sort of built around this validation, the title, the money, it was gone.
Mm.
And so had I been in the same position that I started when that happened, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have struggled as much as I did. And I struggled for a minute because
Mm.
I was so upset because my identity had been taken away. And God was trying to remind me, but your identity is in me. It's not in
Mm.
that. So what do you want to do? And so it was a whole 9-month process of me first going into, okay, why me? This is some bull.
Right.
I'm not like anybody else. I'm kind, I'm considerate, I'm thoughtful. I came into this business to be an inspiration. You see the arrogance and the
Right.
pride in that? But this is me,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't have known that was in me until he
Mm.
showed me. It was like
Mm.
he put me in a spiritual timeout that I needed. And it's funny because I actually am in the process of writing a book about it. It's called Why Me? How
Mm.
to Stay in the Fight. And it really is a just an answer to, or just letting people know how to get through any forces or points of adversity and having a healthy relationship with adversity.
Mhm.
Because had I not gone through that, I would not have been prepared for where I am now. I would not have experienced all of the goodness and greatness and amazing things that God had for me.
Mhm.
And not realizing that the road that I was on, where on the outside it looked amazing, on the inside it was void
Mm.
of peace and joy and purpose, real purpose, because my
Mm.
why had changed
Mhm.
and I was sacrificing the wrong things. Um, he restored me, and he gave me a clear understanding of, you need to stick with your why, because if you don't, this is the road it looks like. And
Mm.
so it's not always going to look the way you think. Actually, the best roads are the roads that only God can get glory from, because if you get the glory, then pride sets in and it's a whole nother situation. And when you sort of lean into the validation of other people, well, you can forget about it because people are broken.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because I'm like, why do I care so much about what other broken people feel?
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
and it's crazy. It's like we're all crazy. We are,
Right.
and that's why we need God, we need a savior, we need some direction and
Come
understanding and
on.
foundational principles to
Right.
stand on. Because otherwise, if we're just in ourselves, we are just naturally selfish, prideful people.
And we're fickle.
Even yes, even when we say I'm doing this for the good, it's like, no, but really be honest.
Right.
You're Instagramming it because you want people to know what you're doing,
Ooh.
because that's what we do, because we're
Yeah.
prideful.
Yeah.
So we have to be honest with ourselves. And that's
Mm.
what God was forcing me to be, is which road do you want? And girl, as I was packing up my home behind the gate and
Oh.
having to downsize, and I was praising God like, Lord, I I see myself, I get it, and
Mhm.
I don't ever want to be in a position where I I don't have you, where you're not leading. I'm never going to fully walk away, but if you're not leading and it's not for you, I don't want it.
Yeah.
And girl, it was great. He took me through a valley, and the valley was a beautiful situation. I was close to my family, close to my kids, close to my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up having way more, not having to work as hard. And
Yeah.
God just opened up so many doors in ways that I would never imagine. Why? Because it wasn't about me.
Mm. It truly wasn't about you.
It wasn't.
Well, okay, let's just unpack this for a second because
Okay.
all of my questions they're gonna be worked in Jesus' name, but I'm just saying.
Okay.
So because here's the thing, like pride creeps up on you,
Oh,
and especially when we're in an industry that is made to glorify people. Like we shine spotlights on people, and there's nothing wrong with praising people for their talent, their expertise, and their charisma and all of that. But I believe it was Tori Kelly who said even good things can be idols. And sometimes we idolize these careers or whether it's an entertainer or it's an executive. I can remember coming into the entertainment industry and hitting up every marketing director in every label and just saying, I really want to get here. I really want to get here. And then I got there and I was like, oh, this isn't it, And so what do you do when you're stripped? Right.
Yep.
So it's a humbling process.
Very, very. And I think that's why people miss out on understanding your why. I can't stress that enough. I can't stress it enough because, I think it was Elvis who said, I wish somebody would have told me when I got to the top, there was nothing there. I mean, think about it. Like when you think about the most prolific artists who basically look like they have everything, but yet Elvis died on a toilet. Michael Jackson couldn't sleep.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and we're lining up thinking it's going to be different.
Right.
And at the end of the day, only what you do for others, your service, only what you do for God, those are the things that last. It's so true. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, whether you're entertainment, where you're a freaking janitor, it doesn't matter. You have to come from a place of how do I use what I have, what God gave me to bless and serve others? Because there's true fulfillment in that. Because think about it. When it's about me, I'm overly perfectionist about it. I'm insecure about a lot of things. I'm constantly in it. And it's a never-ending like it's a never-ending cesspool of like
never
it's
satisfied.
Never enough.
Yeah, you never
Never.
Because there's this moving target that you're trying to benchmark yourself against.
Yeah, it's never gonna happen. And then what's worse is you're on IG and you're comparing yourself. And then and then you're like, oh, I need to up my game, right?
Yeah.
Or you're feeling less than, because you're like, oh, well, she started here and now she's there. And meanwhile, you don't even know if that's true or not. And if it is, or if it's not, what difference does it make? Because it's not about you. Right. If it's about somebody else, it doesn't matter where you are, where I am, where my neighbor is. If I'm about, what? God has put 5 people in front of me to bless. I need to get on my job.
Right.
You know what? This one person needs me. I need to get on my job, And so when I was stripped from everything and God built me back up, I was like, never again. Like, I'm not, no, ma'am. That's whack. Like, why am I putting all this pressure? Right. I'm not nobody's God. I'm not my God. I'm not trying to be my God. I'm too crazy for that.
Right.
So I had to get away. I had to push away all those idols that were giving me nothing but grief and insecurity and pain and depression and anxiety. And I plugged into my creator who said, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. He's given me everything I need to do what I need to do. Just follow, right? And then just follow his way and his openness, and it's going to work out.
Yes.
Do I have troubles? Absolutely. Does adversity come? You better believe it. But the difference is when adversity comes, I greet her and I say, okay, what is the lesson this time?
What are you here to teach me?
What are you here to teach me? Because I need it. I need it. We all need it. And it's not about me. It's like, okay, Lord, show me what I need to do. Do I need to show up in this area? Do I need to show up for somebody else to show them how to walk through this? Let's go. Help me. But it's just different now.
Okay. Hold on to your spiritual edges, everybody. They're getting snatched right now. I mean, and it's just, one, you're reading me, just full transparency to everyone. But 2, it's so, because it almost happens so subliminally. You know what I mean? Like because there's nothing wrong with getting accolades for your work. At the same time, is that if that's what you're basing your value in or your definition of yourself, then that's where you have trouble, right? And you've talked about before knowing yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And I think with the pandemic, you know, a lot of people got shook, for lack of a better phrase, because it threw us all off our game. Right. So how do you know yourself and how do you navigate who you are when there are things like a global pandemic or when you lose your job or, you know, when the definition of you starts to crumble down?
Well, it's funny because when that happened to me in 2010, adversity came to ask me 3 questions. And this is actually in the book. So this is really important.
Okay.
Who are you? What defines you? What drives you? What's your intention? And then 3, locate yourself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And what I learned was when I was about myself and I was at my darkest, the answers to those questions were, I don't know. I don't know who I am. I don't know what defines me. I don't know what drives me because everything that I thought is gone. So now what? That is an indication that your values are off and that you need to be honest with your why and why you're doing what you're doing. And so on the end of that, as I went through my whole ups and downs, and again, you'll see it in the book, God used adversity to continue to push those questions. So when I finally got to my knees and said, okay, I know who I am. I'm a child of God. What drives me is hearing, well done. What do you have for me today? Locate yourself. I'm spiritually sound. I hear you. I'm getting direction. Mentally, I'm in a good space. Emotionally, I am clear because I am in him. And those are questions that I ask myself every day, though. It's not just a one-stop shop. It's a accountability. It's a, okay, because I feel that thing now. Like when pride creeps up or I presented an opportunity and that little thing comes up with like, oh,
it's like a little, like, oh, hey girl.
All right, you know, and then I feel it. And I'm like, oh, 1 second. Let me pull it back. Let me check these questions to make sure that I'm entering it with the right heart and the right way. And I don't veer because I don't want that.
Right.
You know? So I tell somebody who was to answer your question, ask yourself those questions. Okay, so you got laid off. Guess what? Adversity is there to say, all right, there's more in you. What can you do? How can you serve? It's interesting because people are always talking about mental health and depression and anxiety, and it's nothing new. Depression and anxiety didn't just show up, you know, and all of a sudden now there's a epidemic of depression and anxiety. It's always been there. The difference is we're in a culture, a society that sits in it. It's okay. It's normal.
Right.
You know, depression and anxiety is normal. Sitting in it is not.
Right.
That's not it. And so when you do, that's when it succumbs you submerge in it, it becomes your identity. And then you have to do other things to try to cope. And then that's a never ending thing. Whereas if you ask yourself those questions up top, locate yourself. In the beginning, I was like, I'm in this corner, I'm in this bed. I don't know what's going on. I'm crying all the time. I can't figure out what's happening to me. That was a red flag to go, oh, honey, then your whole validation is off and your whole mission statement needs to be readjusted.
Right. Right. No, because like those things come as signals, as red flags. Like you said, when you sit in it, it's like a detour sign, you know, but if you see a detour sign pop up and you're still going down the road that has the detour, instead of turning left and taking another path, then you're going to end up either at a dead end or off a cliff somewhere, you know? And so I know even for me, when I left, I thought I left the industry, you know, the recording industry, but I really left my job. And I remember my prayer was, God, in everything that I do, let my motives and my intentions be pure. And I didn't know the magnitude of what I was praying when I prayed that, you know, and because you get little carrots that come in your way that dangle in front of your face, in front of your face. And I think those questions are so valid because you can even use them to benchmark opportunities, you know, so my prayer was my benchmark. If there and there's been I've turned down a lot of money, y'all. Okay, I've turned down money because of that prayer. I don't want ill-gotten coins. You know,
Mhm.
like I don't want to just get money for the sake of getting money. I want to walk in my purpose. I want to do
Yeah,
things that glorify God, that help other people, you know. And so when you do that, sometimes it is waiting a little longer than you expected. It is,
absolutely.
you know, maybe you're doing your own hair and makeup that day. You
Yep.
know, like it's not as glamorous as people hype it up to be. And so those questions that you pose in your book and also on many of the interviews that you have done before, they're so key, because if you get in this industry, it will tell you who you should be. Like I've been on the other end of the table where I'm making decisions about artists and what they should wear. They might have gained or lost some weight. Let's see if we can, you know, redirect some of the things, or like, should we start them on this content plan? And you know, just all these different things when you're looking at people and gifts as a means of commerce, you know. So on one end you have to do that, but on the other end they're also still people, and they're still
Yeah.
souls, and they still have feelings and emotions. And so don't ever look at any star and think that they're not human, or executive and think that they're not
Yep.
human. But people don't always talk about that.
They don't. They don't. And something that always sort of humbles me too is, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, at the end of the day, God doesn't care what I'm driving to do
Mm-hmm.
his purpose. He could care less.
Mm-hmm.
That's the value we put on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't care where I live, as long as I'm in a place where I can help others and serve others through whatever he's blessing me with.
Yeah.
And that took a lot for me to adjust,
Mm-hmm.
to not care so much about what other people thought
Mm-hmm.
because of the value they put on other things.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got free from it, that doesn't mean that God, has a problem with me living in a nice house or driving a
Right.
nice car. But it's when those things become my God
Mm-hmm.
that it ends up being a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden I'm working for those things and not for him. And that's where my peace and my joy and my focus, it gets jacked up, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't be as fearless and as excited and um tenacious
Mm-hmm.
as I am when I'm serving others and not myself.
I love it. And there's no formula, but that is a foundational step. You know, like
Absolutely.
knowing who you
Everyone is
are.
different.
Yeah.
Everyone's walk is different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one thing that is the great equalizer is knowing if it's, and here's the other thing too, be honest. Like if you really are
Yeah.
like, I'm about to get this coin, you know what
Right.
I mean? Say what you want to say, but
Pay your
I'm about
ties.
to get say, I'm about to get my coins up.
Yep.
Here's what I will say. Good for you. You're being honest with yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
know that that comes with a cost.
Mm.
It does.
Whew.
It does. No matter
Yeah.
what you do, it comes with a cost.
Yeah. No, and you mentioned earlier in when we were talking, you said you have to count the cost. And I think a lot of times, especially when, I know so many people who have, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to move to LA, and I'm just going to grind it out. And I said, LA will eat you and spit you out. Like that is the bread and butter of the city. Everybody's trying to be somebody, right? And so, like you said, there is nothing wrong with saying this is what I'm doing, but like, be honest,
Yeah.
and make sure that you know yourself enough to be honest, and recognize that there's seasons in your life where you have ebbs and flows. Okay. You got peaks and valleys. You know how to be a base and a bound. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's going to be different seasons in your life. And so, I know you also had different areas in your career as, being an entrepreneur as well as working for a super duper major television network. So how do you navigate those pivots? Is it your faith that's anchoring you? And I know it looked different in the beginning of your career as well as now. So how are you navigating those, and when do you know it's time to do something new?
Well, it was interesting. That's such a good question. So when I went through my sort of really, really low of God, like taking everything away and having to
Mhm.
downsize and doing all those things, I pivoted and started my own company. I wanted to go back to what I knew God was telling me to do,
Mhm.
and that's to use my gifts to glorify Him and bless others. So I reached out to different production companies and producers and said, "Hey, I really want to create content and opportunities for other people. I'm available. Let's go." And then my business just started to explode, and I had more time with my family, and I was at home, and it was great. And then at that time, OWN was having some trouble. They were just starting, and I reached out to see if they wanted my services, and then I went back and forth, and then I like, honestly, we don't need a consultant. We need a staff person.
Mm.
And so that was a huge transition because I was like, ooh,
Mhm.
Lord, is this what you want me to do? And I ended up taking a pay cut. Actually, I sacrificed that, and
Mhm.
I talked to my husband, and he was like, you know what? If you have an opportunity to inspire and encourage people through content on a bigger platform, and this is a great opportunity, take it.
Mhm.
So I did that, and I ended up being there for 5.5, 6 years. But before I went, I said, God, you know what? Give me a sign, give me confirmation when it's time for me to go.
Mm.
Because old India to go work with Oprah Winfrey, are you kidding me? I
Right.
would have been there like, okay, see, this is what we're gonna do. Oh, here's the thing. I'm gonna be here
Right.
for 30 years. I'm about to run this company. This is what I do. You know what I mean? So let's let's go.
Let's
You know what
get
I
it. I'm in
Let's
the
get
building
it.
now. Look.
Let's get it. In Jesus' name,
Right. I'm gonna pay my tithes on my salary.
about to do this. You know what I mean? It's for you, Lord, but not really. You know what I mean? So that's what old India was.
Yeah.
But new India was like, what she's not gonna do is get caught up. What she's not
Mm.
gonna do is stay too long. What
Talk
she's
to
not,
yourself. Come on.
we're not gonna do that. Not
Yeah.
again, you
Yeah.
know. And so while I was there, it was an amazing experience. She's amazing. I learned so much. I grew so much. And then towards the end, you just sort of get signs, and God was pushing me in different directions and giving me different ideas of which I wasn't able to do as an executive. It
Mm.
required me to step out and go back to working for myself.
Mhm.
So with her blessing, I was able to do that. And it was very scary.
Mhm.
But I would tell people this again, that's why you got to be clear with your why.
Mm.
Because old India would have stayed and missed all of that. Old India would have been like, okay, but listen, this money good and this is great and this is fantastic and the resources and the blah, 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 and
Right.
people knowing you and the connection and all of that.
Mhm.
But because I was about a bigger purpose and about my father's business, it was different, you know? And so it was hard to leave, of course, but it was just time. It was time to move on
Yeah.
and be able to move because I wouldn't have been able to really do my book. I wouldn't have been able to do more speaking. I wouldn't have been able to
Mhm.
create more content in a different way because I'm exclusively an executive for them,
Right. Right.
So I just had to listen to him and trust him. And
Mhm.
again, because it's not about me, it's not about people's other. Can I tell you, people trying to give me prophetic words? The Lord, that ain't,
The Lord says stay with
yeah,
Oprah.
you don't stay there, girl.
Stay
I was
with
just
Winfrey.
like the Lord. And I'm like,
See,
really?
that's why you got to know the Lord for yourself, huh?
Hello.
Come on,
You
church.
too.
Come on. You mentioned something and you kind of glossed over it, but I'm going to go back because it's something that I've learned even in my career. You said with her blessing, you were able to leave. And I want to talk about because people think that, they're just going to quit and all their dreams are going to come true. But treating everyone with respect,
Absolutely.
especially when it's their vision, or their dream. How important was it for you as you pivoted and transitioned to make sure that you don't burn those bridges just because God gave you the green light to go?
It is absolutely critical. And I'm gonna be real honest with you.
Please do.
There was a time in that last year, me being there, where I was like, I'm out. Like, it's time to go. And God was like, no, it's not. He's like, finish your year.
Mhm.
I'm just letting you know so you can plant seeds and get prepared, but you gotta finish strong,
Mhm.
you know? And so oh my gosh, what is happening? I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine. It's okay.
Um
It's all pre-recorded.
I did that. All right. So I did that, and I prayed and I was like, God, I'm going to stay as long as you tell me to stay, and when it's time to move on, move on.
Mhm.
And He afforded me. Had I done that, and I did it out of my own sort of like, stepping out and just doing it and not doing it in order, it would have been so bad. It would have been
Mhm.
a bad witness
Mhm.
across the board. But because I humbled myself and I positioned myself and made sure that everything was in order, she noticed that and
Mhm.
recognized that
Mhm.
and and we had a great conversation as a result.
That's awesome.
And
And
I can't tell you enough how that was such a huge lesson for me, that
mhm.
you can't feelings are flags. That's all. Sometimes you can feel really great about something that don't mean it's good.
A
Like
word.
I feel great after eating a huge slice of chocolate cake. That don't mean it's good for me.
Come on.
but it makes you feel good, right?
Right.
And sometimes when you get in positions and you're like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable, this is not it, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, okay, reassess,
Mm-hmm.
figure it out. Are you in a fence?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something you need to learn? Is something you need to grow from? Don't move. Don't
Right.
step out, or I'm getting anxious.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's more to me to do.
Yep.
I want to stay, but I need to go. What is it?
Right.
And that was me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go,
Right.
and he's like, no, you're not. What are you doing?
Yeah, I remember one mentor of mine, she told me I was getting ready. I really wanted to leave this particular job. And I was like, I'm out. Like, and she said, well, if you're in pain, then leave. But if you're just being stretched, then stay. And
Oh, I love it.
it really caused me to like look and say, okay, am I in pain or am I just being stretched? And had I left when I wanted to leave, one, it would have been bad timing. And I always tell people you can eat fruit that's out of season and still get sick, right? Even though fruit is good for you, but you can eat it out of season and still get sick. And the second thing I learned is that there were so many other critical projects that were so valuable to who I was becoming, because I didn't see any of this. I didn't see starting. I was, all three of us from Entourage, we are all behind the scenes. Randy's a publicist, Javi's an artist manager, and I do marketing. So like we're never in front of the camera. Like, but then when this idea hit, I was like, oh, we gotta do this. and God has opened up the door for those people to come and even be on the podcast. But some of those relationships came from me being in that chair, in that seat, at that job that I said I was going to leave. And so I resonate with that so deeply, just that the time, God he'll give you the decision, but he'll also prepare the timing for you to go.
It's true. It's so true. And if you don't have peace about it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not in order, it's
Mm-hmm.
not time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not.
Mm.
And so I am so glad that's such a good point. All of those points were great. Like it's true, and it's real, and it's wisdom. So I couldn't agree more.
Okay, I have a couple more questions. We're coming like right at time. I don't want to belabor the time. I ain't gonna be before you long, as they say. But I do want to delve into kind of your creative process, and you mentioned your book. So, how does your creative process look? And it could look totally different now with this pandemic. For television and also book development, is the content similar? Like, what do you go through when you get these
Oh my
ideas?
God. Well, the book, there's a whole nother beast that I am in no way, shape, or form trying to give anybody advice on how to do. I started 2 years ago and I was in it to win it. And then life hit and work hit. And it just went to the back burner.
Okay.
And all of my friends who've written books are like, you have to spend at least an hour a day writing. You just got to commit.
That's what I've heard.
And then I found myself committing to other things. So, in full transparency, when it comes down to a book, it really does start with just your ideas and journaling and writing everything down and getting it out. And then, for me, I partnered with somebody who knew how to write a book because I just didn't. And so I surround myself with really smart people who can help me get it over the finish line. And we are there. And hopefully by the spring, you will be seeing my book, which I'm really excited about. Really, really excited about. But as it relates to TV and development, it's so interesting because I work in both scripted and non-scripted, and they're both very different.
Mm-hmm.
And ideas can come from anywhere. And I say, even with unscripted, it's so tricky because the minute that you have an idea in an unscripted way, 300 people have gotten that idea at that same time. And people don't think that, but they do. I can't tell you how many times I've been pitched the same idea in a week, multiple times.
Yeah.
The difference between the one that makes it to the screen and doesn't is the one that's the most prepared, the best packaged, the best developed. That's the one that makes it over the finish line.
Preparation,
and so
y'all. Preparation,
research, really seeing what's already out there and going for it. And in the unscripted world, it's so tricky, right? Because it's interesting because there's so many outlets now that you do have an opportunity to get content out. But the outlets are so specific. So it's not like it was before where you can put a package together and take it out to 20 different places and it works. Everyone has their own little voice and tone. So it does require more work on the front end, but you have more opportunity on the back end.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome. We interviewed Esther Lou Withers, who is a television writer, and she was on Pitch and Star on Fox, and she was talking very similarly about that, and just kind of her creative process and how she writes. And like you said, when you, as soon as you get an idea, she, and from a writer's perspective, she was saying everybody got that idea. Like everyone's thought, like you see a television show that got the same storyline, you know. So I love the fact that you talked about being unique and sticking out, and how to do that. And also, how do you think digital platforms like your social media, your YouTubes, like how do you think that has helped creatives and get their word out?
they are the future
Mm.
in a different way. But you know what's interesting too? I found,
Mhm.
um, on the network linear side, not the
Mhm.
streaming side, but the
Right.
linear side. A lot of times we would try to develop shows around YouTubers, influencers, and they don't translate.
Oh yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't translate. And what we found is that content is short, it's sweet, it's specific, and people come to them for a specific thing.
Yes.
They're not looking for anything else. I'm not looking for you to expand your horizons. I'm coming to you for this little bit, and this is what I'm feeling.
Show me
That-
how to do a smoky eye,
right,
please.
right. You know what I mean? But
Right.
then you put them on linear, that requires a whole lot of different heavy lifting. And it
Yes.
doesn't translate because it's not, in a scripted world, they're like, I don't know you for that.
Yeah.
Um, Even in reality, it's still tricky because it's a different space. And so each medium offers a different taste, a different world, a different menu.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the streamers are more of the future. It's our sort of North Star in a way of our networks, like the Netflix, the Amazons, the Hulus, you know, and they are like all of the linear networks have streaming platforms now because that's what people want to do. They want to a la carte their stuff. They want to get in and out on programming and they don't want to deal with commercials. They don't want to do any of that. And so it's really changing the landscape of TV as we know it. And
Mhm.
it's a little frightening, but it's exciting at the same time because
Yeah.
it's definitely changing. It's going fast.
I love that. And I'm going to wrap it up. I asked everybody this one question to kind of close everything out. First of all, thank you so much for being here. Oh my God, I've just
Oh,
enjoyed chatting with
I
you.
wish you could talk longer, but you're just so
I
you're
love it.
amazing. And this has been so much fun.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Um, so in the spirit of the entourage and looking back, what is something that you would tell your younger self coming into this industry?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I was asked this question at a different interview, and I said, "Pumpkin, relax. You're
Mm,
not in control. It's gonna work out. You have everything you need to succeed in where you are, and God wouldn't open a door that He is not ready to help you walk through and shine." And so, and don't worry so much about what other people think, because that is going to be your Achilles.
mm,
Just focus on what he feels and what he thinks, and you will be fine. And that's what I would tell her,
I
hands
love
down.
I love
Um,
it.
and because that's what I tell her every day still.
I love it. I love it. And I love the fact that it still comes full circle, but at the same time, more now, and you've experienced more and your wisdom clearly shines through, like even as soon as we first hopped on the computer and I was telling Alexis, I said, this is gonna be a good one. Like I could just we were going through your videos. So I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a good one. So we just appreciate you for coming under the spotlight with us and kicking it with the entourage. Please let people know where they can find you, and we'll make sure all of those links are in the show notes too.
Absolutely. You can hit me up on IG at Miss Endyia, Msendyia, or Endyia Kinney-Sterns at Twitter as well as Facebook.
Okay, y'all. And those links are going to all be in the show notes, as well as if the interview comes out, when the book is out, we're going to put all the stuff in the show notes. Okay. So make sure you please go support and follow her career, because it is truly amazing. So once again, thank you for hanging with us today. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode. As always, you can like, share, comment, subscribe, rate, do all of those things. We would love to hear from you and to hear your feedback. Go ahead and join us on Instagram at The Entourage Podcast, as well as like our Facebook page, The Entourage Podcast. Also, visit our website, theentouragepodcast.com. Sign up to get our emails, and we will see you all next time under the spotlight.